welcome back to Wendy's Colouring, and today having a look at, lovely palette that the kind folks in Lightwish have sent to me. So this is from Amazon.com. It's not on UK yet. I don't know if it's coming to UK, but .com have sent me this one. So I thought we'd have a little bit of a look at it, see what our thoughts are about it. I'm no great watercolourist by any means. Obviously I use a bit of watercolour in my colouring quite regularly on a lot of pages, and I use metallic watercolours quite a lot on my pages. Love them on a background, but just normal watercolours can be quite useful in colouring books as well. I'm no expert on the subject of watercolour pigments and all of that, but I know whether I like something, I know whether I think I'm going to be able to use that, and it'll be useful to me. So this set has 88 colours in. Not sure why it's in French, but what do we know? It's got this nice kind of, it does kind of feel a bit Christmassy, this design on the front, and hello, don't know why my camera went out of focus for that. See, I've been mauling it at the bottom. Watercolour. So yeah, it doesn't have a huge amount of things on other than that. It's cardboard, I think. How does this come open? Oh, slide. So yeah, then it slides off. So it's just cardboard section. Then we've got a bit of a plasticky. Well, it's going to be a palette, isn't it? I think it's there to protect the paint, isn't it? But yeah, it's fairly substantial actually. It does warp a little bit, but it still does hold its shape okay. Then we've got a little sponge. We've got a half-sized, I'm going to break a nail. Yep, there we go. Half-sized water brush with quite a chunky brush on it. If I'm honest, I don't use big chunky brushes like that, purely because I'm using it in the main in a colouring book and I'm generally painting around something, so I like something with a bit more control. But it's quite handy, and this size obviously is quite a small size, so great for chucking in a little pencil case, the usual kind of water brush situation that you fill up the little tank, and then obviously you can squeeze it if you want a bit more out, but it has the little valve in to stop the water just dripping out as and when. Then we have quite a, if I can pick it up, quite a nice selection of colours. So you've got a whole chunk of watercolour. How many have we got? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 26, 27, 28 watercolours, metallic watercolours. We've got 12 what look like fluorescent tones. Some of these are pretty bright looking. Fluorescent doesn't always come across very well on the camera, but these are looking quite bright in the pan. And then obviously we've got a whole chunk of normal kind of watercolours. Size wise, let's have a look. Will this come out? Yeah, let's just take it completely apart, Wendy. Break it before I've even used it. Will that come out? Not easily. Oh, there we go. So size wise, these kind of, I was just wondering how deep they are, which is why I wanted to take it out. So these metallics, those look like a quarter pan to me. So I have a quarter pan in the cupboards here. I can find it. Now these are little quarter pans, obviously completely different brands, but as you can see they are definitely the same size, and I think that's about the same thickness. So I would say these are quarter pans. And the other ones, these obviously are in little pans, so the same as my little white one here, these are in little pans. So if you really have no great love for the plastic and the cardboard arrangement and you want all of this side to be in your traditional palette, I think you probably could prize them out. I'm not going to, I don't want to break it all, but I think you could probably prize all this side out and put, like I've got on the back of that one, you could put a little magnet on and have it in whatever palette you liked. The other side you can't, because they're directly into this set. These ones are significantly deeper though if you look on the back. So whilst they look a little bit smaller, I think actually you're getting a bit more paint on this side of the palette because it is significantly deeper on the back. They're actually quite a deep pan. So I don't think it's a full half pan that's on this side, but I think it's somewhere between a quarter pan and a half pan. I think there's more in there than in this little kind of normal quarter pan that's on this side. I'm not going to destroy it and try and put it in anything else, or this obviously is plastic, so it will do its job well. You just need to keep it away from the outer sections when you're using loads of water, but I think it's fine as it is. I quite like it in that tray, and it's nice to have in one set normal ones, fluorescent ones and metallics. You know, if you just want a palette to grab and take somewhere for a few days, you've got pretty much everything you need in there, haven't you? Yeah, quite like it. Price wise, currently on Amazon.com this is going for about $29 when I just had a look. Obviously prices will change depending when you're watching this video. You'll have to have a look. I'll pop the link below so you can look it up what the current price is. But you're getting quite a lot of paint, I think, for that price. Lightwish are distributor for obviously these kind of unbranded products, but they're also a distributor for Paul Rubens, for Artex, so they do know about paint. And this set, when I did open it, it did remind me very much of the Paul Rubens set I have. So I have this, I think it's 28, which is what this is, isn't it? 28 set of Paul Rubens. I've had this a while. It is a very nice palette of the metallic. I think they call it glittery on the description, don't they? But when you look at these two sets together, this paint is very, very similar to the Paul Rubens set. Obviously the pans aren't quite as big, but kind of when I pick out this green, I can see it over there. Some of the pinks are slightly different, but there's some that are very similar to the ones that are on there. This palette is twice as much. So yeah, if you've ever fancied getting one of these pink Paul Rubens glittery palettes, I think this gives you a bit of a flavour of some of the colours that you're getting in that palette. I know there's a bigger one, isn't there, as well, but if you've never had any and you want some metallics and you could do with some of this as well, I think there's a nice mix in this palette. But what does it actually look like to use is where we need to be. So I have prepped a little swatch sheet in with my little flat watercolour brush that I've drawn. So yeah, we'll give it a swatch. Yeah, we'll see how it is. I'm not gonna probably record me swatching the entirety of this palette because there's 88 paints in here, and that might take quite a bit of time. Right, so I don't think that's going to be the wisest thing to do, but I would like to see how some of them perform, certainly, and I want you to see how some of them are when I first start to use them. So we'll just, obviously the metallics, all metallics, because they're mica based, you've got to give it a bit of a chance to awaken that paint that's in there, because it's you know, it's mica, it's a rock. A little bit of absorption time to whatever the binder is that they've used. Just, it's better if you just leave it a few minutes. You'll get a much nicer, more intense paint if you give it a little bit of time just to absorb. Particularly on mica paints, on anything metallic, they need a bit more time to just absorb and see where they are. I'm not expecting that the normal paints will need anywhere near as much time. They're normally pretty quick to absorb. We'll just do one side, I think, because the other side will probably dry by the time I get to them anyway. Now, I need to organise my desk. We don't need the packaging, do we? Let's move that out of the way for now, because I need to get both of these in a way where I can actually fit what I'm doing. So this might be a bit fiddly because obviously this is quite a big set. I was like, I'm going to get so many of them to one, and I could do with a bit of black paper as well, because it'd be nice to see what it's like on darker. I'm going to pause you while I just get a piece. And I'm back with a little bit of black out of one of my Faber-Castell palettes. Not palettes, Faber-Castell pads. Engage brain, for brain speaks. Okay, so hopefully this has had a bit of time to, ooh, yeah, that looks looking nice. So this first one looks definitely more like a pearly white. Yeah, that's nice. This is not going to work for me. Let's pop it there because I need a bit of hand room. Yeah, it paints quite nicely. Blends out really nicely. Got a nice consistency. Let's have a look what it's like on this. Let's have these two together. Yeah. Yeah, it's nice on the dark as well, isn't it? That is the beauty of anything with mica in. It does tend to show up quite nicely on something darker. You'll always see that mica coming through. Let's have a look at the next one. It's like a soft gold, the next one. Again, looks really lovely in the palette. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's like a soft champagne gold, that kind of tone. Lovely on a fairy's wings or something like that. Picked up too much. Get away with it. Do love anything metallic. Like a bit small child with it. But yeah, they're quite subtle. Again, great for kind of magical effects on pages where you know you want that kind of thing going through. Do one more. But yeah, these have developed nicely with the water. They've not taken too long to get into a nice consistency. I've just put my hand in that wet paint like an idiot. But yeah, they've got a nice consistency quite soon. They're nice to paint with. I've got metallic everywhere now because I've stuck my fingers in them. I think I prefer them on the white, if I'm honest. You can see the colour tone a little bit more, but possibly we can get to some of the stronger colours. That might not be the case. Okay, I'm going to pop you onto fast forward because you don't want to watch me painting every single one of these little paintbrushes, or I doubt it, let's put it that way. But yeah, I'm going to carry on and work my way down the metallics, and then we'll have a look at them, and then I'll do some of the other ones to let you have a look what they are like. I'll see you at the end of it. yeah, there's all my yeah, I'll just put the wet paint down on itself. That makes sense, doesn't it? So yeah, there's all my metallics. Yeah, I was really pleased with how they painted. They were nice to use. They were nice and smooth. They dissolved really nicely. And then yeah, the paints I think are really lovely. This gold, which I think is this one on the palette, is super sparkly. It really does feel like it's quite glittery in real life. Obviously a good chunk of this side are still wet, but this side pretty much dry, I think. So that is the kind of dried finish, all of this side. And there's some lovely colours in there. You might have noticed I stupidly swatched that one up here, so I had to swap them down. So this bright looking pink is actually that one now. It's in the wrong place in my swatch because I'm an idiot. But yeah, they're really nice on the white. That blue I thought was really beautiful as well, which I think is that one. Again, felt quite an intense colour when you were putting it on, and it's got quite a lot of sparkle in it. The greens are the same kind of pigment, I think, apart from maybe the first one, which feels like it's got a bit more kind of golden pigment in it. These three kind of feel like lightest, medium and so on as you go through it. But yeah, I think there's some lovely metallics in this set. If you've not got any and you want to try some, I think this is a cracking set to start with, because they've got a really nice selection. You've got a bit of every colour that you might need. They've got a really nice glow, even on the black pigment. But yeah, undoubtedly, I think the gold and that darker of the blues is my absolute favourite. And I do use quite a bit of blue in my pages, because I tend to do quite a lot of backgrounds, and blues are obviously really useful for that. Okay, so I'm going to have a go at some of the Fluorescent, which I've not used at all. Just going to clean my water a bit, then we're not putting loads of metallic pigment into the Fluorescents. I did add some water to these earlier, so hopefully they'll be ready to go. Gosh, that is definitely Fluorescent. That is a strong yellow. I don't actually think I've got any fluorescent paints in any of my other sets. So yeah, quite interested to see how these are. Obviously they are not as opaque as the metallics, because normal watercolours aren't. But yeah, that's still pretty vivid. Don't know how bright it looks on the camera, but in real life that is definitely fluorescent yellow. I'll have a go with a couple more before I fluorescent yellow water now as well. Let's try this one, which looks like a more of a normal kind of yellowy orange. Yeah, these are dissolving nicely as well. Nice creamy consistency. Yeah, I don't think I'd describe this one as fluorescent. I think this is just a normal yellow that you can use if you just want a brighter yellow. It's nice though. Quite like it. Okay, I'll do all the others and we'll have a look at the fluorescents. Okay, so that's all my fluorescents. Again, I don't think they look fluorescent on the camera as much as they do in real life. I would say, actually now it's dried, that yellow does look a lot brighter. Definitely the pinks are quite strong, that yellow is very strong. The oranges are definitely very kind of fluorescent looking. These purples and the blues kind of remind me of those highlighters that you used to have when you're at school, and definitely the greens are quite strong as well. But yeah, I would definitely describe them as fluorescent. I don't know how much I'll use them. I quite like the purples and the blues and the greens. I think the yellow is very usable. Obviously, if you want to do some kind of strange night lighting effects, those kind of colours can be quite useful. I don't use them a huge amount, but it's worth a go, see what they're like. Okay, so I'm going to wet all this side of the palette and obviously swatch the rest onto here, so I'll speak to you at the end. I'll fast forward you through because it's taking a long time, won't it, otherwise? So yeah, I'll see you in a minute when I've done all of this bit. Okay, so finished swatch. Yay, that's it's taken a bit of time. I've just popped a couple more lights on because it's getting a bit dull in here. Yeah, obviously it's taken me a little bit of time. It's not my neatest of paintings. These brushes are quite small that I've printed. But yeah, I think colour wise, I think there's a really nice selection of the normal paints. I really like this section down here, it's got this kind of tealy turquoise and some nice limey greens. I think that's a really nice section there, very useful. I quite like this kind of dirty moss green, again really useful, and again a couple more nice teals there as well. You've got a couple onto kind of orange red, some really deep dirty kind of brown reds, nice selection of purpley pinks. They do look quite different. I noticed these kind of purpley pink shades when they're dry as when they're wet. This one in particular, I noticed when you wet it, it looks really quite light. It looks very much like the one next to it, but then it dries a lot darker. I think it was this one actually. Dries a lot darker, and it dries darker in the palette, so it looks wet. When you wet it, it looks a lot lighter, but as it dries, it goes this much darker tone, which I think is quite nice. Yeah, quite nice. I did just pop a bit of the white onto the bottom of this black swatch because obviously you won't see them on the white palette anyway. And yeah, it's not too bad, is it, for a white watercolour? You can still see it on the black. It's got a bit of consistency. I still, undoubtedly, the best parts of this palette for me is the metallics. I think they were really lovely. They've dried really nicely. They look nice on the black card. Again, I do tend to layer my metallic watercolour, so I don't tend to leave, when I'm using it in a book, I don't tend to leave it just one layer. But some of these definitely, I think you could leave it one layer. That nice blue, that lovely gold, those are quite consistent even just with one layer. actually these have dried really nicely as well. These kind of soft, kind of purpley tones. I think they're quite pretty. I think it's this section in the palette here. Those two have dried really pretty. Again, I don't know how much my camera's doing them justice really, but yeah, overall I think this is for the money as well. Thinking about how much this palette costs, I think if you have not got any watercolours and you want to start getting into a bit of watercolours and using it in your colouring books, certainly I think the metallic, the mica paints in here are beautiful. You've got a little bit of everything in the colours. They paint really consistently. They're nice, smooth, easy paints to work with. The other side of the palette, it's, yeah, I mean, it's not a top quality watercolour pigment. They're a little bit chalky, but not too bad actually. When I run my finger over them, it's not got that, oh, that feels horrible. It doesn't. It's a nice matte finish. It's got a bit of, it's not got a crack. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with them really. And you've got a little bit of everything, like I say, in this palette. I think it's a really nice selection. Yeah, very pleased to have a play with it. So I think what I'm going to try and do, I quite like doing a bit of metallic background. Excuse my glasses a minute while I just flip for this book. So if you watch a lot of me, you'll know I do quite like doing this kind of thing where you've got quite a metallic-y background. And I am kind of, fortunately, up to that point, I've been working in this book, Escape to Christmas Past, December when I'm filming this, as you can probably tell. And as you can see, I've started on this page. I've not done a huge amount on it yet. Can I get to the things I need? So I've got on this page, for speed and for preparation, an undercoat of these acrylic markers, the Lightwish ones as well. So all I've done is literally worked one layer over the entirety of the sky. Not because I want this attractive stripy look, because that's ridiculous, but because I use that as a base. So that particular page that I just showed you in Lulu Mayo, that paper's not great at taking watercolour of any type. So this is how I've worked on it. I've literally put a layer of the acrylic pen on. As you can see, I'm still working on it, so I've got this pen out because I'm just putting a layer on some of the bricks. I'm probably not going to watercolour the bricks and the stone, but I just wanted a base layer of a colour on because I can work over it in a coloured pencil. So I was wondering about, obviously I have a nice stripy look on here at the moment, which is not a look we're going for, and I don't really want my sky totally metallic, I'll be honest, because that again would be a bit crazy for a sky, but I do want a bit of metallic in my sky. So I'm just going to wet a couple of the blues again out of this palette, and there's a few kind of grey tones as well that I quite like in the metallics, but I'm also going to chance a little bit of the normal. I have no idea how the normal watercolour will work over the top of this acrylic pen base that I've got. This could be a disaster, but I kind of think, well, I could just work over it with the metallics. If it's a disaster, it doesn't matter. Not going to do it all, but I might have a try at just layering a little bit of the watercolour over the top. What brush do I want? Because these are a little bit fiddly sections. A bit more water in that one, I think. Let's have a go. This could be, like I say, it could be a disaster. Because generally I do this with just purely metallic mica paints, but because it's sky, I kind of, oh yeah, that's not too bad, is it? That evens it out a bit, okay, and that's quite a good colour match. See what it dries like. But yeah, I'm just thinking I'm going to do a bit with the normal paint, and then a bit that might have a bit of that, because there's that really nice pale pearly colour that's first on that set, and there's a nice silver and some of the blues are quite nice, so I'm thinking I'm going to use a bit of this first and then maybe layer a bit of the metallic over the top. That one in Lumio was just purely metallic. I didn't put any normal watercolour, but that was supposed to look watery, so I wasn't too fussed if, you know, it didn't need any matte paint on. Now then. Oop, nearly put the wrong one on then. Also curious to see what it looked like with a bit of white in. Might not hide the stripy acrylic too much with the white in, won't it? But, you know. So look, because I've got so many lights on, it's kind of reflecting at me. I don't think it's reflecting at you, thankfully, though, is it? It's just me that's getting a lot of reflection, which does make it a bit harder to get it looking a bit more even. Right, I want something with a bit more colour in, so I'll try the one that's a step up with colour. Yeah, I quite like it with it a little bit darker around there. Pop a bit more of that in. Maybe that's what we'll do. Maybe have it a bit more metallic towards the top. A bit darker towards the bottom. Maybe that's what we'll do. Probably do with going to a slightly bigger brush, some of these bits, but some of it's so fiddly. I'm too chicken. Probably do a bit of paper in that before I get the blue all over the book. Okay, light be brown and try a bit of this kind of pearly colour on the top. Not sure how well these two are going to go into each other, but we'll see. I think. Let's have a look. Yeah, I quite like how that's working. So I've got kind of that pearl metallic, the first one in the palette at the top, and then just the two blues and a little bit of white in the bottom. Do I want some of the darker metallic in the bottom? Let's have a look. So the lighter one will be the green and the grey. Okay, I might try a little bit of this one. Just wanted to pick a little bit up, but I've got a lot of it. Might try it down here. What's it look like? What do I think? Yeah, I think I quite like it. Might have some down there. Getting it on my pigeon. Need to be more careful. Yeah, so I quite like it. So I'm gonna obviously carry on and use all of these over the rest of my page. Yeah, this video is already looking quite long, although I will have fast forwarded some of it for you while I've been swatching, so it probably isn't as long for you as it is for me, but you get the idea of what I'm doing with the background and how I'll use them in my backgrounds on my pages. And yeah, I quite like how that's started to form. I quite like the mix of the two actually, so I think I'm going to keep on doing the kind of darker tones. These ones, oops, pull it in. So I was using that one and this one to do the darker tones at the bottom, and then obviously I've used this one at the top down here for some of the top sections, and I've just started to add in a little bit of this one as well into a little bit at the bottom there of my page. Can't move it now because that's pooling a little bit there. But yeah, you get the idea. So you can see kind of getting rid of the lines of the acrylic paint, the acrylic pen underneath, and you get that much more softer kind of sky feel with the watercolour in the background. Now, I've not painted in this book before. I don't know how well this paper might have taken the watercolour, but because I knew I wanted to put watercolour on here, I kind of have used that as a way to protect the paper, and it just gives you a bit more control when you know it's not seeping through and it's not going through to the back of your book. And it's not really making a huge amount of difference to the paper either, because you've kind of sealed it. But just doing a quick pop on just to show you what it looks like when I finish painting it. I wasn't sure when I was doing all of the swatching whether I'd have time to carry on and just do a bit more on my background, but yeah, I've done a bit more. Basically carried on exactly as I've just shown, so with the two blues out of there, the odd little bit of white, which I've made a mess of, that kind of pearly colour, and I've just been adding in that deep blue that's got a really nice sparkle as well into the bottom section, so you can just see, as you can see, it's still a bit wet, still quite wet in places, but yeah, so I've just got a bit of sparkle on the bottom and obviously a lot of that pearl on the top. I think I'm going to do another coat of the pearl on the top, just to, because obviously it has a bit of text on this page here, which doesn't quite cover, you can kind of see it from that angle, can't you? But on that angle you can't, so I'm thinking I want it a little bit more opaque there, and a little bit here in the spine, where obviously if I start putting too much in it starts dripping into the spine, so I'm going to let that dry and then I'll do another coat of the pearl. But yeah, lovely. I do always layer my mica paint, my metallic paints. They give a better finish, I think, in all brands, not just this brand, when you layer them. So let the coat dry and then you can layer another layer on top, sometimes the same colour, sometimes a different colour to contrast. But yeah, that's what it looks like, a bit more finished. Obviously the page is not finished, but I might add a little bit of colour pencil here and there, maybe a bit of shadow under the clouds when I do the clouds, but other than that, I think the background, yeah, I'm quite happy with how it's gone on this paper. Obviously this is not watercolour paper, but I think it's taken the watercolour quite well with that little bit of basing with the pen. And in the main you can't see the stripes with the pen, so I'm pretty pleased with that, and it kind of gives a smoky sky look to me. So yeah, yes, quite enjoyed having a play with those. So thank you very much to Lightwish for this lovely palette. Details are below if you're interested. I think it makes a great starter out palette, or if you've only got a couple of colours, this obviously gives you a real good mix of metallics, fluorescents, normal paint, which you can all use together as I've just been doing on there. So thank you very much for watching. Hopefully this has been of interest to you. Bye bye.